Chief Observer Vexterra of the Galactic Diplomatic Corps stood motionless before the Great Council's viewing chamber, her crystalline form refracting the soft light from the ancient hall's bioluminescent walls. The emergency session had been called after her scout ship detected unusual energy signatures emanating from a previously unremarkable star system in Sector 749. "Explain again," Council Elder Jorix demanded, his tentacles writhing with barely contained anxiety. "Why you chose to violate quarantine protocols around a Class X restricted system." Vexterra's voice remained steady despite the weight of the entire Council's attention. "The energy signature didn't match any known pattern in our databases. It showed signs of both quantum manipulation and primitive fossil fuel usage, a combination that should be technically impossible." The Council chamber erupted in murmurs. Elder Kirital, the oldest among them, raised a mechanical appendage for silence. "You are aware," she began, her synthetic voice carrying an edge of concern, "that this system was restricted for a reason. The species designation, human, carries our highest threat classification." With respect, Elder, Vexterra projected a holographic display from her central core. "Their technological development doesn't justify such classification. They've barely reached their own moon. Their primary energy source is still nuclear fission. Yet," she paused, adjusting the display to show a series of readings, "they're somehow achieving quantum tunneling effects with technology that shouldn't be capable of it." "You don't understand." Elder Kirital's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "The classification isn't about their technology. It's about them." The chamber's atmosphere grew heavy as Elder Kirital activated the ancient archives. A holographic recording materialized, showing the first documented contact with humans nearly a century ago. The footage showed a human settlement under attack by Drachnid raiders, one of the galaxy's most feared warrior species. "Watch," Elder Kirital commanded. The Council observed in silence as a small group of humans, armed with primitive chemical-propelled weapons, faced off against technologically superior opponents. What happened next defied conventional tactical analysis. The humans employed strategies that seemed simultaneously primitive and brilliant, using their environment in ways no rational species would consider. "These humans," Elder Kirital continued, "lost 60% of their fighting force, but still achieved victory, not through superior technology or biological advantages, but through what they call improvisation. They adapted mid-battle, used farming equipment as weapons, and continued fighting despite injuries that should have been incapacitating." Vexterra's crystalline structure vibrated with interest. "But surely that makes them ideal candidates for diplomatic contact. Their adaptability cold." "There's more," interrupted Elder Jorix. "Show her the education incident." A new recording played, showing a human educational facility. A visiting alien delegation had presented their young with an advanced mathematical problem, one that had taken their civilization centuries to solve. The humans, mere adolescents, approached it differently. They didn't follow established mathematical principles. They made intuitive leaps that violated conventional logic. They solved it in under an hour. "This is why they're classified as they are," Elder Kirital explained. "Humans don't just overcome obstacles. They rewrite the rules of what's possible. They don't accept limitations. They treat the impossible as a personal challenge. And most concerningly, they do this instinctively." Vexterra processed this information, her form shifting through spectrums of thought. "The energy signatures we detected, they weren't accidents, were they? They're deliberately experimenting with technologies they shouldn't even be able to conceptualize." "Precisely," Elder Kirital confirmed. "Now you understand why we maintain distance. It's not fear, it's prudence. A species that can achieve quantum effects with primitive technology, that treats death as a temporary inconvenience, that solves millennial problems through intuition. They're not just dangerous. They're unpredictable. But they're advancing," Vexterra pressed. "The energy signatures prove it. Soon they'll achieve faster than light travel. We can't keep them restricted forever." The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled in. Finally, Elder Caratal spoke again. "Perhaps you're right, which is why we're modifying your mission, Chief Observer. Continue your observation, but maintain absolute stealth protocols. Document everything. We need to understand them better before they understand us. Because once humans realize what's possible, they'll redefine possible itself." As Vexterra left the chamber, her mind raced with the implications. She had come seeking answers about an energy anomaly, and instead discovered something far more significant. A species that treated the universe's laws as mere suggestions. For the first time in her long career, she felt something beyond scientific curiosity. She felt wonder, and perhaps just a touch of fear. The observation post on Europa's dark side wasn't meant to be detected. For 3 months, Chief Observer Vexterra's team had monitored human activities on Jupiter's moon from their cloaked facility. Everything changed when their quantum core began to destabilize. "Containment field at 30% and falling," reported technical specialist Raylac, his bioluminescent patches pulsing with distress. "The core's degradation is accelerating beyond predicted models." Vexterra's crystalline form darkened with concern. A quantum core breach wouldn't just destroy their facility, it would create a temporal anomaly visible from Earth. Their mission would be compromised, and worse, the humans would be exposed to technology they weren't ready for. "Begin emergency shutdown procedures," she ordered, but Relac's response froze her processors. The shutdown sequence is rejected. The core, it's achieving quantum consciousness. It's fighting back. This was theoretically impossible. Quantum cores were complex but fundamentally predictable, yet the readings showed cascade patterns that defied standard physics. They needed help, but their nearest support was light years away. "We have to contact the humans," Junior Observer Mictal suggested, causing the entire command center to fall silent. "Absolutely not." Vexterra's voice carried the weight of centuries of protocol. "This facility doesn't exist. We don't exist. The Council's directives are clear." With respect, Mictal's neural patterns flickered with determination. "The humans have been experimenting with quantum mechanics. Their approaches are unorthodox, but they've achieved results that even our scientists consider noteworthy. They might see something we're missing." The facility shuddered as another containment field failed. Their options were running out as quickly as their time. Vexterra made the hardest decision of her career: initiate contact, but choose carefully. They selected Dr. Sarah Chen, a quantum physicist whose recent papers had caught their attention. Her theories about quantum entanglement had been dismissed by her peers as impossible, yet her experimental data suggested otherwise. When their holographic projection appeared in her lab at Europa Station, Dr. Chen didn't scream. She didn't panic. She simply took off her glasses, cleaned them methodically, and said, "Well, this explains the energy fluctuations we've been detecting." After a brief explanation of their situation, Chen's response stunned them. She laughed. "You're telling me," she said, gathering her tablet and tools, "that your super-advanced quantum core is having what basically amounts to a temper tantrum. Classic emergence behavior. We see this in our quantum computing experiments all the time." "That's impossible," Raylac protested. "Quantum systems don't develop emergent consciousness. They're not supposed to develop consciousness on your end either, but here we are," Chen replied, studying their readings. "Your problem isn't technical. It's philosophical. You're trying to force the quantum state to conform to your expectations. We learned pretty quickly that doesn't work." She pulled up a series of calculations that seemed to violate several laws of physics. "Look, quantum mechanics isn't about control. It's about conversation. Your core isn't malfunctioning. It's evolving. You need to give it room to grow, while gently guiding it toward stability." The aliens watched in amazement as Chen implemented her solution. She treated the quantum core not as a machine, but as a developing intelligence, using principles that seemed to draw as much from psychology as physics. The core's erratic behavior began to stabilize. "There," Chen said, making final adjustments. "I've helped it establish a stable feedback loop. It should continue developing, but safely now. You might want to update your containment protocols to account for quantum consciousness emergence. We had to completely redesign ours after the Jakarta incident. The Jakarta incident? Vexterra inquired. Classified. Chen winked. But let's just say you're not the first non-human entities I've helped with quantum problems. Now about your cloaking technology. We should erase her memories, Rylax suggested privately to Vexterra. Protocol demands it. Vexterra considered the human before them, who had just casually rewritten their understanding of quantum mechanics while treating first contact like a routine consultation. No, she decided. The Council needs to know about this. Humans don't just solve problems. They see possibilities we can't even imagine. Dr. Chen didn't just save our facility. She showed us that our fundamental understanding of quantum mechanics might be flawed. So what do we do now? Miktal asked. Chen answered before Vexterra could respond. Now we talk about knowledge exchange. You have technology we could use. We have perspectives you need. And judging by those containment protocols I just saw, you could definitely benefit from some human intuition in your engineering. As Chen began enthusiastically outlining potential collaboration areas, Vexterra sent an urgent message to the Council. The humans weren't just breaking the rules of physics. They were engaging with the universe in a fundamentally different way. And perhaps she realized that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Fleet Commander Zarkax watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. The joint military exercise had been his idea, a controlled way to assess human military capabilities now that limited contact had been established. He had expected to demonstrate the superiority of advanced alien technology. Instead, his fleet was being systematically dismantled by ships that shouldn't even be able to compete. Impossible, he muttered as another of his state-of-the-art vessels registered a simulated kill. They're using mining vessels as combat ships. The human fleet, if it could be called that, was a hodgepodge of retrofitted civilian vessels. Instead of proper military ships, they had brought converted mining rigs, atmospheric research platforms, and what appeared to be modified cargo haulers. Yet somehow, they were outmaneuvering and outfighting ships designed specifically for combat. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans are using the solar wind to mask their signatures. They're surfing the particle streams to approach undetected. Zarkax's secondary brain pulsed with frustration. The humans were treating space combat like some sort of ocean warfare, using natural phenomena in ways his crew had never considered. His ship's advanced sensors, calibrated for detecting engine signatures and energy weapons, were struggling to track vessels that were essentially letting solar currents do most of their work. New contact, the sensor operator announced. They've converted a gas harvester into. Sir, I don't actually know what they've converted it into. The massive vessel, designed for collecting helium-3 from gas giants, was now serving as a platform for what the humans called gravity slings, crude but effective weapons that used localized gravitational distortions to disrupt shield harmonics. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't sophisticated, but it worked. Commander, his communications officer interrupted. The human admiral is requesting a direct channel. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on his screen, the same scientist who had helped solve the quantum core crisis months ago. Her new role had surprised many, but humans seemed to have little regard for traditional career paths. Interesting strategy with those phase-lock shields. Commander, she said with a smile. Very efficient, very predictable. This exercise was meant to evaluate your combat readiness, Zarkax replied stiffly, not to turn basic industrial equipment into weapons. Combat readiness isn't about having the best toys, Chen responded. It's about using what you have creatively. Your ships are impressive, but they're designed to fight enemies that think like you do. A alert blared. 3 more of his ships had just been eliminated by what appeared to be a swarm of modified maintenance drones. You see, Chen continued, we learned long ago that the most dangerous weapon isn't the biggest gun. It's the ability to use anything as a weapon. Every tool is a weapon if you hold it right. Zarkax watched as his remaining ships tried to maintain formation against the chaos of human tactics. They had no doctrine, no standard approach. Each captain seemed to be improvising independently, yet somehow their actions coordinated perfectly to create overlapping fields of advantage. "Your crews haven't even received proper military training," he observed. "Oh, they're trained," Chen corrected. "Just not the way you'd expect. That cargo hauler that just took out your flagship, its captain used to smuggle supplies through pirate-controlled sectors. The mining rig that's causing havoc with your sensor grid, its crew spent years dodging corporate security patrols in the asteroid belt. We don't train people to follow a doctrine. We train them to think." As if to emphasize her point, a civilian science vessel somehow managed to use its atmospheric sampling arrays to generate an electromagnetic pulse that disabled an entire squadron of Zarkax's ships. "This isn't war," he protested. "This is chaos." "Exactly," Chen agreed. "And chaos is our natural environment. Your ships are designed to impose order on chaos. Ours are designed to surf it." The exercise concluded with Zarkax's entire fleet neutralized. As he prepared his report for the council, he struggled to categorize what he had witnessed. The humans hadn't just defeated superior technology. They had fundamentally challenged the very concept of military doctrine. "One more thing, Commander," Chen added before signing off. "Everything we showed you today, those were just the tricks we're willing to demonstrate publicly. Sweet dreams." Zarkax sat in his command chair long after the exercise ended, his report still unfinished. How could he explain to the council that the humans' greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships? It was their ability to look at any situation, any tool, any challenge, and see possibilities that no other species would even consider. The humans weren't just defying logic. They were rewriting it, and perhaps most terrifyingly, they seemed to be enjoying themselves while doing it. The swarm appeared without warning. Their biomechanical ships emerged from subspace ruptures across 3 sectors, targeting both human and alien installations with ruthless efficiency. The Council's emergency session was interrupted by news that the swarm had bypassed the Arcturus defense network, a feat previously considered impossible. Elder Kiritol's holographic form flickered as she addressed the crisis chamber. "The swarm adapts to every countermeasure. They're consuming our outer colonies faster than we can evacuate them. We need—" Her transmission cut off abruptly. The chamber erupted in chaos as reports flooded in of more council worlds going dark. "The humans," Vexterra suggested from her observer's position. "We need to warn them. Their worlds are next." But when they finally established contact with Earth's Defense Command, they found Admiral Chen surprisingly calm. "Oh, we've known about the swarm for weeks," she said, checking something on her tablet. "We've been tracking their subspace wake signatures. Interesting biotech they're using." The council representatives stared in shock. Elder Jorix found his voice first. "You knew. Why didn't you warn us?" "We tried," Chen replied. 3 times. Your automated defense systems classified our warning messages as potential cyber attacks and blocked them. Very efficient system you have there. Very inflexible." Before the council could respond, new alerts flashed across their displays. The swarm fleet approaching Earth had suddenly gone silent. Not defeated, just silent. "What did you do?" Vexterra asked, her crystalline form vibrating with curiosity. "We noticed the swarm uses organic quantum entanglement for communication," Chen explained, as if discussing the weather. "Fascinating stuff. But anything biological can be infected. Their ships aren't just connected. They're essentially one giant nervous system. So we introduced a virus. A computer virus cannot affect biological systems," Elder Jorix stated flatly. "Of course not," Chen agreed. "We used an actual virus. Modified from the common cold, actually. Turns out the swarm's bioships are surprisingly vulnerable to re-engineered human pathogens. Who knew?" The council watched in astonishment as the massive swarm fleet drifted off course, their ship's organic components rendered inert by what humans considered a minor inconvenience. But that's not the best part, Chen continued, now grinning. While they were distracted by their ships catching colds, we uploaded a modified version of an old human computer virus into their quantum network. You remember when I said their ships are all connected? Well, now they're all connected to a copy of Space Invaders running in their command and control systems. You turned their military network into a primitive entertainment system. Vexterra tried to process this information. Seemed fitting, Chen shrugged. They wanted to invade space, so we made them space invaders. The virus will keep their systems locked in an endless game loop until we can figure out how to communicate with them. Maybe they'll learn to appreciate irony. The council chamber was silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just defeated the swarm. They had done it by combining centuries-old computer code with modified renoviruses, turning the enemy's greatest strength into a weakness. Oh, and about your compromised defense networks, Chen added. We took the liberty of uploading a few patches. Your systems were too rigid, too predictable. We added some chaos algorithms. Should help prevent this kind of thing in the future. You're welcome. As the immediate crisis subsided, Vexterra composed her report to the Council archives. How could she explain that humans had defeated an overwhelming threat not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through what they called thinking outside the box, a concept that seemed to involve deliberately ignoring conventional wisdom? The humans hadn't just saved themselves. They had protected the entire galaxy using methods that no other species would have conceived. They had turned a childhood illness into a weapon, transformed a primitive game into a military victory, and treated an existential threat as an opportunity to improve everyone's defenses. Most troubling of all, they had done it with a sense of humor. The Council would need to seriously reconsider humanity's classification, not because they were less dangerous than previously thought, but because they were dangerous in ways no one had imagined possible. The Grand Council chamber hadn't changed in 10,000 years. Its ancient walls had witnessed countless species rise and fall, endless debates about galactic law, and innumerable classification decisions. But today was different. Today, they were discussing humans. Vexterra stood before the assembled council, her crystalline form projecting calm despite the gravity of the situation. The events of the past year, from the quantum core incident to the defeat of the swarm, had forced a fundamental reassessment of humanity's place in the galaxy. Distinguished council members, she began, our original classification of humans as a Class X restricted species was based on their perceived danger to galactic stability. Recent events have proven this classification both correct and catastrophically wrong. She projected a series of images, Dr. Chen solving an impossible quantum crisis through intuition, civilian ships outmaneuvering military vessels, and the elegant simplicity of the solution that had defeated the swarm. Humans are indeed dangerous, she continued, but not for the reasons we thought. We classified them as a threat because they don't follow our rules. What we failed to understand is that they don't follow any rules, not even their own. Elder Kirital's mechanical form hummed with concern. Explain. Every species we've encountered operates within understood parameters. The Drachnid are aggressive but predictable. The swarm was adaptable but linear. Humans, they treat parameters as suggestions. They don't break rules. They simply fail to acknowledge that rules are supposed to limit them. She displayed footage from Earth's historical archives. Humans achieving flight despite lacking natural wings, exploring ocean depths without gills, surviving in space without evolutionary adaptation. They see limitations differently, Vexterra explained. Where we see an insurmountable wall, they see a climbing challenge. Where we see final boundaries, they see starting points. Their greatest strength isn't their technology or their resilience. It's their refusal to accept impossibility as a concept. And this makes them less dangerous. Elder Zorix questioned skeptically. No, Vexterra replied. It makes them essential. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Vexterra pressed on. The galaxy is changing. The swarm proved that our traditional approaches are insufficient. We need species that can think beyond established parameters. We need humans. She projected her final evidence. The modified defense networks, now operating with unprecedented effectiveness, thanks to human chaos algorithms. The quantum cores, stable and evolving after implementing human-inspired protocols. The new medical treatments derived from studying how humans had weaponized the common cold. Every aspect of our civilization that has incorporated human insight has improved, she concluded. Yes, they're dangerous. Yes, they're unpredictable. But they're also exactly what we need. They don't just solve problems. They redefine what's possible. The council deliberated for 3 days. When they emerged, their decision was unprecedented. Humanity would be reclassified, but not in any existing category. They created a new classification, Class Omega, unknown potential, limited restrictions, maximum engagement. When Admiral Chen received the news, her response was characteristically human. About time, she said, already drafting plans for joint technological development. We were getting bored anyway. Did you know we've been working on something called quantum tunneling teleportation? Your scientists said it's impossible. Want to see how we did it? Vexterra, now appointed as chief liaison to humanity, felt her crystalline structure vibrate with both excitement and apprehension. The humans were about to have access to advanced galactic technology, and the galaxy was about to have access to human creativity. Neither would ever be the same. As she prepared for her new role, she added a final note to the official